Hey, and welcome back to the next part in my dialing in series for our Line 6 Helix. I had a bunch of people ask me over the past little while to see if I could take a crack at dialing in a Brian May style tone. I thought that would actually be a pretty good idea. What a unique tone. It's one of those instantly identifiable tones, right? And one that I thought, man, it's going to be a tricky one to get. I mean, we do have, he's renowned for using his Vox AC 30 amps, and we do have a model like that. But one was particularly asked about his Bohemian Rhapsody solo tone. And I thought I would try to go there and see if I could even get close. Again, with that tone there, it's some interesting stuff going on. I have a feeling, and it's just my thoughts, is that his guitar, his signature guitar, probably has a lot to do with the electronics in there and the pickups and whatnot. And without that, it might be tough to get close. But I'm gonna give it a crack here anyways. I decided to use my Godin Progression Plus with a Duncan JB Jr. In the bridge and use that pickup just for no other reason. I figured it might be a good one to try dialing in with. I'll play the tone I ultimately came up with a couple other guitars, actually. Let's dive in and take a look at what I did to dial this tone in pretty quickly. So obviously I started with, I'm going to turn some of these blocks off simply because, leave that on. I want to sort of build this from the ground up and show how I got it. So I started with an SX A30, so the Vox A30 amp model, going into the 212 Silver Bell, which is just the Vox speaker cab that matches up with that. And I decided to go with the 121 ribbon, and I pulled it back 5 inches just for no other reason. When I played it, it just seemed to sit right. And that's the thing to keep in mind. Again, standard disclaimer, I'm not claiming I matched Brian May's tone here just before everybody goes, on about the fact that it doesn't sound exactly like the album and whatnot. So, but I just I'll make a decision, and usually I'll just stick with that. Much like, when I go to the tone stack, right? I'll dial certain things, and sometimes I go back and I go, I guess I could have just cranked the treble up a little more. But I just kind of get it sounding somewhere in the ballpark of what I figure I can work with, knowing that I'm going to go to some EQs and whatnot and mess around with it afterwards. So here's what I ended up with. I ended up with that cab with the 121 ribbon, 5 inches off. I have my split block, crossover block set up here, but it's turned off. Everything else is turned off except for the reverb and my normal little dynamics processor at the end, which I always use. So what you're basically hearing now is amp and cab into a bit of reverb with a tiny bit of compression on it. So I wanted to get quite a bit of gain out of this because there is a fair amount of, that searing lead quality to this tone, this Brian May tone. So I cranked the drive and the master up to 10, put the cut way back at 0. Treble was at 2.5, present at 2.6. I probably could have gone a little bit higher with those in hindsight because I ended up dialing a lot more treble in with the EQs. But again, see, the problem with the tone stacks is we're not totally certain exactly what frequencies they're affecting. And, by cranking those up, it may give us something of what we need and cause another problem. So I almost kind of prefer to use the EQs, right? But anyways, this is where I ended up. So the tone that we ended up with right off the bat here, just amp and cab, was this. Okay, obviously very far off of a Brian May tone, but it's workable. So I left that, and I said, obviously, first thing, I need more distortion here. So I decided to go with a Minotaur, and I tried a couple different possibilities, and I just seemed the nicest, right? So look at how much I cranked it, though. It's crazy. I went up 9.1 on the gain, which I've never really used a Minotaur like that, but it worked in this case, and the tone at 6. So what that sounded like was this. Right there, you could probably play the song with that tone and nobody's really going to call you out on it. But again, it doesn't have that comb filtering kind of sound with that really nasally, almost mid-range, right? So I wanted to work a bit more on that. Well, I went over to my split crossover and I did something a little different than I normally do. I really wanted to kind of get a lot of bite into the tone. And this is what I said. I probably could have tried to use the treble control on the amp tone stack, but I decided to go here and set the crossover frequency at 7 kilohertz, okay? So that I could then boost everything above that to get almost that abrasive sharpness that actually is in that Brian May tone on Bohemian Rhapsody. So I actually cranked up all those frequencies by 12 dB, which sounds insane. But I think when you hear it, you'll see why I did that. And then anything below 700, I just left in alone. So here's the tone again before that. Once I put that in, it sounds like this. So really almost abrasive high end that we're going to work on a little bit more. Now, I then went to an EQ, and because that high end was so abrasive with what I did, I wanted to now roll off with a high cut some of those really extreme high frequencies. So what I did with this next EQ, as you can see here, I set my high cut to 14 kilohertz, which is a little higher than normal. But again, I didn't want to cut out that almost abrasive high end that's there, right? And if you notice the low cuts, there's a lot of fatness to this sound that isn't necessarily apparent right away until you really listen closely, but it doesn't go really deep. So I did a low cut at 150 hertz, but then at 150 hertz with a Q of 1.7, I added back in 5.1 dB. Okay, so I really rolled things off below there, but kind of wanted to keep that fatness there. So I seems kind of counterintuitive, but this is going to roll off a lot below that and then keep the 150 and up and even a little bit below it, just support it a little bit more to keep some of that beef in there. At 600 hertz with a Q of 1.5, I rolled out 12 dB, which seems crazy. And I was even kind of surprised as I started playing with it that, man, that it kind of worked, right? And then at 5 kilohertz, I rolled with a Q of 2.0, I rolled out minus 10.8 dB as well. So with all that super upper sort of mids and high end I put in, I wanted to scoop things back and control the things way below it in the mids and upper mids, okay? So again, let me play it without that EQ. Okay, and with it, okay, it's starting to come together, but it's still not quite there. That kind of dulled it up a little bit, too much, so I wanted to go with now a simple EQ. And at the mid-frequency set to 4 kilohertz, I dialed out another 2 dB. And with this high gain, I came in and jacked up another 12 dB, which seemed like crazy, crazy frequencies and moves to, not frequencies, but moves to make, dramatic moves to make, right? So without that again, with it, it sounds like this. So it's starting to come together. I'm liking that bit of ambience on the reverb. I can turn that on even though it doesn't make a difference. But what we're missing is that sort of comb filtering effect. Now, I think a lot of that, it sounds like that sort of comb filtering effect, almost like frequencies that are canceled and whatnot. I think that was probably done with, multiple microphones, possibly. That's sort of what I'm hearing. I could be wrong about that. But so I tried to mimic that, sort of getting that real roomy sound by bringing a delay in, just a simple delay set at 10 milliseconds with feedback of 29%, mix of 68%, just to give it almost that not so much an echoey delay at all, just more of that almost comb filtering effect, if that makes any sense. So again, without that, it sounds like this. And with it, it's this. Okay, and that's ultimately where I ended up, all right, with this tone. Which, like I said, I don't think this is an exact replica or exact copy of what Brian May is playing. I've said it so many times, right? I don't think it's really possible without knowing exactly what gear and having that gear, the pickups, the outboard gear, the EQs that were set on it before and after the fact, the amps, the room, the same room, the microphone, the placement, and on and on and on. What the mastering engineer did later on. So many variables. But I think this, while not being exact, is going to get you that vibe anyways and get you close to it. And I don't think anybody would call you out on it. You've probably, if you've watched the guitar solo video, which I'll link to in the description that I did with this, hearing it in the mix, I think you'll agree that it works, it works. And I almost wish it was maybe, in hindsight, a little bit more nasally sounding, if that makes any sense, but with maybe a touch more of that comb filtering effect. But you can play around with this yourself. This is a good starting point. And again, this is going to sound so much different again with different guitars and different pickups. So let's take a listen. I'm going to grab a couple other guitars and we'll listen to it with them. I'm going to try it with P90s. What the heck? Why not? I've got a guitar with P90s. We'll try that and have to listen to the horrible humming. And then maybe with humbuckers and see how it sounds, normal size humbucker rather than the JB Junior. And we'll see how it sounds with that. So just give me a second and I'll grab another guitar and we'll listen to how it works with that. All right, I'm back. So here it is with some Duncan P90s and noise and all. Please enjoy the noise. That right there. That's it with P90s. Let's listen to it with humbuckers. So this is the Godin Summit with Lawler El Rayo pickups. Let's see how it sounds with that. All right, it works. So it seems to work with various guitars. Again, you might want to play with it depending on your monitoring system, your guitar and whatnot. But I think it gets us in that ballpark of a Brian May tone. Again, before the comments pour in saying it doesn't sound like it, exactly like it. I'm not claiming it does. With all of these, I'm just claiming to get it somewhere close and in the ballpark. I was actually able to find what seemed to be a pretty authentic, isolated guitar track of that solo on YouTube, and I listened to it against that, and it was close. It was pretty close. I even did the little EQ curve scan on it to kind of see where I was able to get it pretty close on that. But there's so many other elements involved too, right? The amount of gain, that comb filtering kind of effect, dependent on so many things. So. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you haven't already checked out the guitar solo video where I play this tone with the backing track, like I said, the link is below. Please check that out. I think I'll probably do that more often with these from now on when I'm doing an actual song to avoid sort of the copyright issues. I'll do the video separate with the song and then just do the sort of separate dialing in video. I don't know, maybe this will get flagged again just because I was playing snippets of the solo by itself. Who knows? I don't know how YouTube works with a lot of that. But anyways, thanks so much again for tuning in, guys. Thanks for the support. If you haven't subscribed already, I really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button and the little bell notification so you can get notifications when my new videos come up. I got a lot more to come. Please share and like the video. And like I said, I appreciate the kind words and the support. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I'd be happy to get to them. And until next time, thank you guys for tuning in. Ciao for now. We'll talk to you soon.